This is Gemara Metziah, Daf Yomi Clear, and today's shir has been sponsored as an incredible zchut rafua shlema for Yeshua ben Sarah Dvora b'siyata d'Shmaya, the koyach ha'Torah, the zchus ha'Torah, Talmud Torah derabim should bring Yeshua ben Sarah Dvora a complete rafua shlema. We're holding on Yud Gimel Amid Beis towards the bottom. We're in the middle of discussing what is the machlekes Rameir and the Chachamim in the Mishnah. So to try to, keep track of what's going on over here, we had a machlekes Rameir and the Chachamim. The Chachamim said that you never return the shtar that is found. That's the Chachamim. And Rameir said it depends on whether there's a chrayis or not. That's what determines whether you return the shtar. Then on Yud Gimel Amid Beis, we had a machlekes Rav Elazar and Rav Yochanan as to what is the machlekes Chachamim and Rameir. Rav Elazar held the machlekes is when the loivet does not admit, and Rav Yochanan held the machlekes is when the loivet does yes admit. We ended off with the Gemara teaching us that we're going to quote a brisa, and this brisa is going to be simultaneously accomplishing three things. It's going to be a raya to Rav Yochanan, a kasha on Rav Elazar, and a kasha on Shmuel Bitarti. So we read the brisa. The brisa was from the wide lines for 5 lines, and the Gemara 5 lines from the bottom, 6 lines to the bottom. The first one line is ve'echad said tiyofta Rav Elazar bechada. That the following is how this is a kasha on Rav Elazar in one angle. Why? Here it goes. Damar, because what did Rav Elazar hold? The Rameir shartim b'achrayis achasam in gavim min achasam mishubad. There's no achrayis you cannot collect from the chasam mishubadim. V'loy min achasam in chayrin. The unique sheet of Rameir that a shtar without achrayis, you're not allowed to collect from anything. V'kamar, and Rav Elazar explained, being the Rameir, being the Rabbanan, loy chayshina lekinunya. So Rav Elazar is not concerned for any form of kinunya. And now, how does this contradict the brisa? Says the brisa Katani, what do the brisa say? 3 lines from the bottom. So right there, it's not like Rameir. And the brisa explained Vikatani, bein the Rameir, bein the Rabbanan, that we are worried about kinunya dikatani. Where do we see that in the brisa? Because the brisa said, even if they're both a maida, still we don't return it. Why would we not return it if both the malva and the loiva admit that this is a verified shtar? That's the kasha in Rav Elazar. So all thinking minds right now are wondering, 1 second, that was 2 kashas on Rav Elazar. Says the Gemara, V'hani tartiu. These are 2 questions of Rav Elazar. Why are you telling me there's only 1? As we turn over to Yudalad Amud Aleph, explains the Gemara, no, it's true that in reality, it seems to manifest itself as 2 questions. However, Chado says Gemara, it's really 1 kasha. The Chad Taimahu. Why? Because it comes from 1 reason. So there's 1 issue which manifests as a 2-pronged question, Rav Elazar. Because Rav Elazar said that when's the machlekes? When the loivet does not admit, that is the reason why he has to explain the machlekes Rameir and the Chachamim in such a way. So the brisa is in reality just in 1 manner, in 1 yisoid at the impetus, not like Rav Elazar, because the brisa is learning where it's not a case of b'she'ein chayev moida. That's kasha number 1 in Rav Elazar. Continues the Gemara to the Shmuel B'tarti. It's a double kasha in Shmuel. Why? Chadik Rav Elazar. Number 1, like we learned like Rav Elazar, which Shmuel agreed to that detail that it's ein chayev moida. So that's kasha number 1. Damuki masnita b'she'ein chayev moida. V'chad on the second kasha in Rav Elazar is Damar Shmuel. Shmuel said, Mota shtar hakna b'shok. Says Shmuel, someone finds a shtar of hakna a star in which the loiva writes that he's obligating himself from the time of the loan, even before the actual loan happens, once it's written, Yachzer Labailim. Shmuel said, you return such a document, and we're now worried that it might have been paid back. So says the Gemara, how's the Kashan Shmuel? To you have to think a tani. What do the prices say? Af al pish shnei amaydim lo yachzer lo lezev lo lezeh alma chayshinan lipi rayin v'kol shkein alma dechayshinan lipi rayin. So that's how the Brisa contradicts Shmuel twofold. One for Rav Elazar, and the other one that Shmuel said we're not worried for Pri Rayin, and the Brisa clearly is. Continues the Gemara. Amar Shmuel, V'kol shekei, sorry, stop the job early. V'kol shekei nacha, delay maiden, loiva dechayshinan lipi royin. And that's the end of the second kasha on Shmuel. So Amar Shmuel, my time of the Rabban. Says Shmuel, what's pshan the Rabbanon, who say that you're able to collect from the properties even after the halva, because they say a interesting din. Obviously, all dinim are interesting, but as we're starting to get our feet wet in the world of shtaros, this comes as a big chiddush. Shmuel says that the Rabbanan hold that if there's a shtar and the shtar does not have achrayis in it, meaning it doesn't seem you could utilize this shtar to collect from properties. Says Shmuel, holds the Rabbanan, that's a mistake. It's the cipher that must have left it out, and it was not on purpose. Says the Gemara, Amar le Rava, Barisi le Rava idi baravin, Rava Barisi says Shmuel Achi. Does Shmuel really hold this? That any time you have a shtar without a chrayis, we assume to be that the cipher was one that made a mistake. V'amar Shmuel, but Shmuel held shvach, shvar, v'shibod. Shmuel held that any time that we have a tenai that of something being improved, the land being improved, then what? You have to pay from the shvar, you have to pay from the best properties, and v'shibod, and there's going to be a shibud. Saruch limalech. So now, if these different Tanayim, whether it's the Tanayim Shvach, Shvar, or Libud, the Sefer, wants to put into the document, he has to ask before writing it. Says the Gemara, Leima, Mandamar Ha, Loi Amar Ha. Sounds like two different Mandamar. On one hand, Shmuel's holding lack of achrayis is a cipher's problem, meaning it's supposed to be there. On the other hand, we see that the cipher has to ask about these things. Says the Gemara, Loi Kasha Kam Bishtar Alvad, Loi Yav Inish Zuzi Bechdi, Kam B'mekro Mechlo, Dav Inish Zavin Ara Li Yoimei. If it's a loan, then people don't give away money for nothing, says Shmuel. And therefore, if there's no lien, that was an oversight. But says Shmuel, if the shtar of a Mekach Memkar, that's a different story. Mekach Memkar, there are times that people will sell things even for one day, and that's when the Sefer has to ask before writing these different details. And the Gemara proves this. Ki ahi ta'avua bar'i zaven alita me'achte. Avua bar'i bought an alita, an upper floor, from his sister. Asa bal chayv tarva minei. Bal chayv of the sister came and grabbed it from him because she owed him money. Asli kamei demar Shmuel amar lei kazlacha achrayis. So Shmuel came. Avua came before Shmuel to take his sister to court. What are you doing grabbing these things? You have to compensate me for the land that I lost. Amar lei. So Shmuel says to Avua, Lo amar lei im kein zil lishlama. So Shmuel says to Avua, I skipped. Amar lei kasacha achrayis. Shmuel said, was there achrayis in the shtar? Amar lei loi? No, there was no achrayis. Amar Lei says Shmuel and Cain Zilla Shlama, saying, "Get out of here," says Shmuel. "I'm sorry, there's no Achrayis. What's your taina?" Amar Lei Shmuel Avu said, "What? You Shmuel? V'amaru da'amar Achrayis Seferu." I thought you were the one that holds that even without Achrayis, it's a Tayis Sefer. So even without it, I should be able to collect. Amar Lei says Shmuel Ani Mili Vishtari Halvo. Starting Mekel Chumemker Loi David and Zavin Ara Liyaimi, and therefore this was a sale, and therefore there's nothing you can do about it. Says the Gemara. And again, we're in the middle of a sidebar over here, figuring out Shita Shmuel, but that's how the Gemara answers that there is no kasha. Amar Abaye, continuing in such a theme, Reuven Shemachasadu l'Shimon v'Achrayis. Ubaba al-Chayv de Reuven v'Karatar v'Leiminei. So Reuven sells to Shimon, and the person that Reuven owed money to came to collect the land from Shimon. Dinu dazal Reuven u'mishta dina ba'adei. So Reuven himself could go, again, Shimon has Reuven's field, and this guy is coming to collect the field from Shimon. So Reuven is allowed to go and deal with the guy coming to collect the field from Shimon. And the guy can't say, "What are you doing here? I'm collecting this field. Get out of here." No, because it's going to eventually come back to Reuven, so he's allowed to defend the land that Shimon now has. You're going to come back to me, and therefore that's the reason why he's allowed to fight the case with him. A second lashon, 4 lines to the bottom. Even if it was a sale without achrayis, even in such a case, Shmuel is of the opinion that, Abaye is of the opinion, I should say, that the seller is allowed to go and defend the land that the borrower bought. You know why? I don't want Shimon to be upset at me. And that is enough to counter this guy who's saying, "What are you doing here? Get out of here." V'amar Abaye. We continue with a new din. 2 lines to the bottom. Reuven sells a field to Shimon, and then what happens? There's no achrayis, but asikin protesters come over saying the field was never Reuven's. If Shimon did not, as of yet, make a kinyan on this karka, yachal lachzer bay. Again, Reuven sells something to Shimon, and before Shimon has a moment to take ownership of the land, there are people that are coming out talking and complaining that the land doesn't really belong to Reuven. So if Shimon did not make a kinyan yet, Yachal Lachzer Bay is able to back out of the sale. Once Shimon makes an act of kinyan, why? Says Reuven, "I'm sorry, but you bought this without achrayis. You knew about it, and you bought a bag full of knots, literally. So you can't have a taina against me." Memus, I have it chazaka. Says the Gemara, at what point is considered that Shimon does a chazaka? From the moment that he threshes on the boundaries of the field, that is a kinyan, and then it's considered to be his. Another pshat, filu b'achrayis nami. Even if it's with achrayis, even if it's with achrayis, he's not allowed to back out. Why not? It's achrayis. Says that's achrayis. You're right. So if he eventually collects from you, then you can come to me. The fact that people are talking, the fact that they're protesting, that is not my problem. Says the Gemara Itmar, 5 lines down. And we begin a new sugya. What happens? Reuven buys a field from Shimon, and it comes out that guess what? The field was never Shimon's. So what does Reuven get back from him? Rav Amar Yesh Leima, he's the one that purchased the land, gets back the money that he paid for the field, V'yesh le shevach, and he gets back that which he improved the field. Shmuel says no, he gets back that which he paid, but he does not get back the improvements that he that he did in the field. What's the halacha when, if there was a tenai that he explicitly said, "I'm going to pireish loy," he explicated, he said explicitly, "I'm going to give you back the shvach," and then what happened was, it was a stolen field. Time of the Shmuel, Misham de Pirish, Vachavacha Pirish. Do we see that? Why did Shmuel say his din? Because they never spoke about the improvements, but here they did, so we'll get it back. Oy dama time of the Shmuel came into last lake Arka. Merci Kiribis. So maybe it's a different reason for Shmuel. Because since this land never belonged to the sellers, therefore, when the buyer paid him, he never really bought anything. So now, if he's going to be getting back more money to compensate for the way that he bettered the field, it looks like Rebis. I give Shimon $100 for a field, but there was no field; it was stolen. And then the original owner comes and takes that field, and I want $150 back. So I put $50 in the field. It looks like I gave $100, and I got back $150. And merci Rebis, says the Gemara. What is the story in this case? Can you get the shvach if you said explicitly that you would compensate him back for the shvach? Amar lei, Ravuna first says in, then he said lav. For Ravuna wasn't sure what is the story in this case. So itmar Menachem Shmuel Maz Yesh Shvach Einloi Af Al Pi Shapir Shleis Shevach Ma'itaima Kim the Karkein Lo Schar Ma'isav Oimid V'Noitel, and therefore answer to Menachem Shmuel, you do not get back the money that you put into the field to better the field. You don't get back that money. Eisi Rav Nachman, that's Rav Nachman's Teretz, and Rav Ayas, in Metziah la'achila peiros, u'leshevach karkais, u'lemazai nisha v'abanis ben chazim mishabanim. You don't collect these things from encumbered properties when they take an item. Mimeshabdi udulay mafkinan. So as Rav Nachman, it seems clearly that there's only an issue to collect from the Chasim Shubadim, because then you're messing someone else up. But it sounds like from the Chasim and the Chayrin, you should yes be able to collect. And yet we learned the Shvach Karkais my lav lokech me gazlan. Sounds like this Shemamish be our case. You bought something from a gazlan, and it sounds like you should get back the betterment, not from encumbered properties, but at least from Bnei Chayrin. Says more like B'Bal Chayv, some a regular Bal Chayv. Bal Chayv, Marisha, Ein Matzin Lechilas Peiros, you Bal Chayv, Miyaslei Peri, V'Amar Shmuel, Bal Chayv gave us a Shevach in, Avol Peiros Loi. A Bal Chayv never gets compensated for Peiros, so what exactly would the Brisa mean? Elab Shita, says the Gemara, you know what must be going on over here? Begoizel v'nigzal. Talking about that it was a stolen item. Says Mar 1 second. The ratio goes of an exal. Say but nami because of an exal. Says Mar me the arya hakadisa vakadisa, and it's true they both could be talking about very similar cases. Says Mar Velotaniach. He doesn't say this. The shachar kois case that Arisha goes also the mechaver over yoytem midachas yadai. Shu gaive is a karmen chaz bishvadim v'shach gaive min chaz min chayrin. So echidami, what's this case? Like you're telling me now, Gazlan miman gavi. Who did the Gazlan collect from? Elolav, it must be the case is Shagazal Sadam Echavera Yomachar La Acher Vishbichai. Says the Gemara, Amar Le, Lav Teru to come at Tarsta. Taritz Nami, Bibal Chayv. And Tashema proves the Gemara. La Achilas Peiras Ketzat says the Braisa. Or Shagazal Sadam Echavera. Variating midachas yadak shu gaive is a keren minachasim b'shubad the bears given minachasim minachayr nechi dami elaim gerutani gazlan miman gavi elalav proves the gemara and shagazal sadam echaveroi umachar lacher mamish our case is shmicha, and yet in such a case you're able to be collect. My Rava, there's no raya. Hachav b'mayaskinon. You know there's no raya on the first very wide line. So you ruin the field by eating the peiros. You better the field by digging stuff in it. But nigzal ligvais kara, and then you get from the chasim shabadim. But nigzal ligvais peiros go from the chasim b'nei chayrin. So says the Gemara, we don't have a raya because we can explain that the case is in which he depleted the peiros in the field and he only added in by digging things. That's when we're going to differentiate between where you collect it from. We'll pick it up from Rabbi Bar Avuna the next year, B'siyata Dishmaya.